Sony announced their PlayStation 5 Pro, and man, does it have all kinds of problems with pricing and exclusives and all kinds of stuff. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Just Because Gaming. My name is Michael,
And I'm Ray.
and thank you for joining us. Before we jump into it, as usual, just want to say hit that subscribe button, like, comment, follow us on all the socials, and we're also still going to be doing that giveaway when we get to 50 subscribers here on YouTube, as well as for 20 subscribers on Patreon for everyone that joins. With that being said, let's get that out of the way and jump right into it. The biggest news in gaming right now is the PS5 Pro, and oh man, is there so much to go over. The main thing is that it's coming out in just a few months. It's coming out on November 7th, and it is a little bit of a train wreck. Now, if you've been closely listening to Ray and I, we also talked about the Xbox Series X refresh and how they went with a diskless console but didn't upgrade the storage.
But it had these pretty little stars on it.
Yeah, for their disc-based console, they doubled the storage on that one, which you didn't really need, and they added glitter to it. So it's like a My Little Pony edition.
Yeah.
And that one went from $4.99 to $5.99, which, I mean, when that came out, when they announced that, you know, Ray and I, we kind of clutched our pearls. We were like, an extra $100? You already took $500 from us. Now you want $600 for glitter?
Yeah,
and
it's literally cheaper for me to just go out and buy the little plug-in hard drive. Oh, look, now I have 2 gigabytes in my, and it's the same thing otherwise.
Yeah, because
I can take a little green paint and go splatter my Xbox. And look, I have stars too.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. Yeah, you just dip your fingertips in some paint and just flick it at the Xbox,
Right.
And you got the same thing. You could. I wonder if you could sell it. Be like,
I'm starting to wonder if they just think we're really, really stupid. Gamers are just stupid. They'll buy anything. No, pay attention.
But you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because for the PS5 Pro, the way it looks, there is a difference, and that it has a couple lines going across the console. So you know,
Does
instead
it say
of
Pro? A little tiny word.
instead of glitter, you know, sparkles flicked onto it, it's a couple racing stripes. Yeah, which if you know anything about cars, racing stripes makes it go faster.
Of course. Quick question: did your original PS5 did it come with the stand, or did you have to buy that separate?
Yeah.
See, this one does not come with the stand. You have to buy that separately. Yeah, and you can buy the disc drive separately. So there's another about $120, $130 you're spending, because like $100 for the drive, if you want a drive. And then another $20, $30 probably for the stand.
Yeah, it's just one big train wreck, and part of me is wondering. So, what I'm largely considering to be the deal is that PS5 and Xbox are just throwing this out there just to see who bites. You know, does this glitter console for Xbox actually cost them anywhere near $600 to make? No, they just want to see who's going to buy it. And for this PS5 Pro, is it costing them $700, which is the price tag, by the way? Is it costing them $700 to make, or close to $700? No, they just want to see who's going to bite. And the thing is,
I will give PlayStation this: they do have a performance upgrade to this one.
Yeah,
it's like double the teraflops. I think it went from like 10 point something to 20 something. So it's got the better ray tracing. It's supposed to be able to do 60 to 120 frames, you know, standard. We'll see about that. You know, that kind of depends on the software more than just the machine.
Yeah. So that's actually one of the things is they're talking about the teraflops that it can do. It can go from the PS5, the regular edition is can process 10 teraflops, and the PS5 Pro can do about 33. So it's triple the processing power. But honestly, I don't know if you saw any of the reveal for it, but when they showed like a side-by-side of PS5 versus PS5 Pro, I'm like,
I can't see that big a difference.
It's like that meme from The Office where they're like, you know, oh, corporate wants you to figure out the difference between these two pictures, and Pam's like, it's the same picture. That's what immediately came to mind, is like, corporate wants you to find out what's the difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro from graphics, and I'm like, it's it's the same it's the same video.
Yeah,
Um,
you might be
like
able to pick out a little bit of lighting differences. I think they had one shot where they were showing like a crowd in the stands in the background, and you kind of, the crowd was a little bit more. Do I care about this? In the
yeah.
driving game that you've ever played, have you gone, oh man, look at the crowd? No, you're focused on the road ahead of you.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, and we'll include a link to this, but one of the video YouTubers, his name's Video Game Donkey. He actually made a video about this, and I was like on the floor laughing. It's like I said, we'll include a link to it in the description. But Video Game Donkey made a video where he was like doing the same comparison that they were doing when the PS5 Pro was announced, and he kept showing like in the video of the announcement from Sony, they were showing a video of PS5 Pro versus PS5. And what he started doing is he was progressively making the video worse. So it was PS5 Pro versus PS5, PS5 Pro versus like PS4, PS5 Pro versus PS3, then PS2, then PS1. And he's like, he was the whole time he's claiming that that's the PS5. And he's like, yeah, let's switch back to that PS5 Pro. Oh, it's so beautiful, so gorgeous. Now let's switch back to the PS5. And they would show PlayStation 1. They would be showing Crash Bandicoot. And it's like, okay.
Right.
And he's like, oh, that's so gross. So the biggest thing for me is that, when you look at them side by side, you can't really tell a difference, like barely. I mean, you would have to be a keen video gamer to be like, oh, there's the extra pixel,
Right.
Like,
unless you have the 4K TV or 8K TV that almost nobody has, it's not going to show up anyway. So you have to have a TV that can even handle all of that. And
yeah.
I saw a statistic where it's like, even now in the country, only about 30% of people, and those are probably all gamers, have 4K TVs. It's
Yeah,
still
I'd
not
say
worldwide kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd say it's most likely gamers or like just people that just really love movies,
Yeah.
Like
But
even
when
even
you get to those 70-inch TVs, you need that higher definition because, I mean, that's a big picture and you're going to see every pixel really well.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. So it doesn't have a stand, and the other thing is it doesn't have a disk drive. So I think what they're going to be doing is for a lot of the players that have a large PS5 disk library is I guess they're going to have an external drive.
That you can buy separately, yes.
Yeah, so that's going to rack up the price even higher.
Yeah, about another
So
$100 from what I've heard.
so
Now
already,
you're at an $800 console. Good job.
yeah. So now they're already excluding people with that high price tag. They're excluding people that do primarily disc-based gaming, which, I don't really understand. I'm not that type. I've always been, a digital console person because I hate having to swap out 1,000 discs, and I hate having to have like all this storage for a bunch of stupid, game boxes and stuff. I mean, back in the day it was cool to have like a little tower of like CDs and stuff, but now
Right.
it's like I don't want that in my living room. I don't want to have this giant thing. And plus, by having a diskless console, you don't have to worry about like the laser eventually failing and all that stuff like I was talking about. That's not an issue, and
Right.
there's less moving parts. There's less risk of the console overheating and getting a red ring of death or red flashing light of death. You don't really have to worry about that with the digital consoles. So
Yeah.
um,
Lot less moving parts, a lot less to go wrong. That's why
yeah,
they've gone to those solid state drives. A lot less to go wrong with a solid state drive than the, you know, classic hard drive that spins.
yeah,
That's going to wear out.
yeah. I mean, technically, you could say that with solid state drives, they can only rewrite so many times, but I mean, you're not probably going to get to that with a
Yeah. Your
console,
console will be out before that's a problem.
probably. One of the main things that a lot of the PlayStation fans have been complaining about is the price tag, and it's rightfully so. Uh, for the PS5 Pro, it's listed at $700, basically $699. So I mean, you just add
Six
in
ninety
some
nine
tax.
ninety nine. Yep.
Yeah, you add in some tax, and it's already over $700. The main issue with that is for a diskless based console, and that's the main comparison that everyone's missing. They're like, oh, it's $200 more than the PS5. No, it's $250 more than the PS5 because the diskless base, if you're comparing apples to apples, last console was the PS5 diskless version, and that one was actually $50 cheaper. So it was $449, $450. So it's an extra $250 if you want this console, if you want the PS5 Pro. And for you to see like an extra, couple pixels clearer, it's really not worth it.
Right.
at least not in my opinion. I mean, I was the one, mainly dunking on the Xbox, glitter box edition for being $100 more for glitter and, some extra storage. And yeah, so to ask for $250 more just for a little bit clearer graphics, it's a bad look.
Yeah. I mean, technically the Xbox one is saving you maybe $30 because it's $100 more than the original. You're getting the extra hard drive, which that costs about $130 for that plug-in hard drive in the back, which adds a terabyte. Because I have one.
Yeah, talking about the main difference between the original Xbox and the current Xbox that's on sale for, the digital one and the glitter versions. These, yeah, you don't really need to have that extra storage, because what most people with an Xbox Series X will tell you, including Ray and myself, is that you only need that core internal 1 terabyte for games you're regularly playing. So unless you're a really odd person and regularly play a lot of different games, you don't really need it. I don't know about you, Ray, but for me, when I'm playing Xbox, it's usually like 2, maybe 3 games, and
Yeah.
that can be on the internal hard drive, the internal solid state drive, easily.
Yeah. Like right now, I was just playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. I just finished the campaign. I was like, I'm only going to finish this campaign. But that was 230 gigabytes because it downloads all the freaking multiplayer and everything. 230 gigabytes. That eats a lot of space. Starfield is well over 100 gigabytes. Those are the main two I've been playing. Then I've got a few little ones on there that, but I mean, I filled up, at least probably 1.5 of my hard drives. But then I've got a external hard drive that's 8 terabytes. You just can't play anything but the older games off of that. But I can store it there and then move it over when I'm ready to play it.
Exactly.
So that's how I get around most of that.
Exactly. And it's the same thing for me. I usually will have a handful of games. I'll have probably, just because I'm that guy, I'll have a wrestling game on the internal. I'll have an Assassin's Creed game on the internal, and I'll have something I can play with like the kids or my wife on the internal. Like I'll have a Gears of War for my wife and the Halo Master Chief Collection for me and my kids. And that's enough. Like
right.
if there's something I really want to play, I would just swap it out with something like I'll move probably Assassin's Creed to the external, and like that external hard drive like you're using, Ray, it's mainly just for storage. Like
Right.
you said, you can only really play some of the older games off that, like the ones that are more the previous generation, and you just move those back and forth. You just move the active games you're actively playing to the internal 1 terabyte. So it's really not necessary to have 2 terabytes. I mean, to save $100, you don't really need it.
No, it's not worth upgrading to at this point.
Yeah. And it's kind of the same thing for the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. My personal opinion is for the PS5 Pro, it's not necessary. You don't need to make the jump. Even if you don't have a PS5 and you're going from the PS4, just go to a regular PS5. You don't need the extra graphics power and everything. What about you, Ray? What's your verdict on the PS5 Pro?
It's nice to have that power jump, I guess. If you're a really hardcore gamer playing a lot of, competitive multiplayer, maybe that, the extra frames per second is an issue that could be something you need in a competitive, but that's a small percentage of people. But again, this is what worries me about this. You see this large price point, and they're aiming at that hardcore gamer. They're aiming at, they're not thinking, oh, we're going to put this out and 15 million of them are going to sell on the first day of its release. They might sell, 500,000 to 1 million, make some money off of it because they're selling it at a profit. There's no, going below cost on these.
Yeah.
But I think that's what you're going to see is in the next generation of consoles, where Xbox releases a Series X. That Series X is going to be the elite of the consoles, and it's going to have probably an $800 price tag, if not worse. I hope not. And then they'll have, their Series S and probably a portable edition finally. So you'll have that range, so you can hit. Here's the kid on Christmas that needs the $450 console instead of the $800 console. I just don't know how they're gonna they're struggling with that with the S now. You've got the processing power and things like that. It's just not quite on par with the X. So they're having trouble releasing games on both systems now that we're this far into the generation.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how. I'm more worried about what it's going to do to our next generation of consoles.
And yeah, you're definitely right about that, because that was something that we saw previously with the Xbox One and the PS4, is that the mid-console refresh kind of hit everybody in the gut with what prices can be. And that's what was the next console's starting price. So it is making me worry a little bit that, if Xbox is releasing their mid-console refreshes at $600 and PlayStation is doing their mid-console refresh with, the PS5 Pro at $700, they might be testing the waters to see if people are going to pay that. And if so, that's where they're going to start the next generation of consoles. The best thing to do, honestly, for anyone that's listening and cares, don't do it. Don't get it. Because if that's what they're doing, if they're testing the waters as far as price point, don't get it. There's no reason to get the PS5 Pro when the standard PS5 can play the games just fine. It'll be a negligible video difference where you can't even tell the difference. And for the Xbox Series X, it's literally just glitter and some storage space. So the best way to tell these companies like Sony and Microsoft, that you don't like the direction they're going is to speak with your wallets. Hit them, in their wallets by just not buying it. And they'll have to figure out, more clever ways of purchasing and selling and pricing. And it's totally possible. They're just being lazy and greedy. And here's where it hurts for me as a console gamer. For PS5, for $700, do you have any idea? There's right now in the console wars, right now, the PC players are like, yes, because do you have any idea what kind of graphics card you could get for $700? If you spent $700, if you have a actual PC, not a laptop, but if you have a PC and you drop that same $700 in a graphics card, you will be able to beat the hell out of any PS5, out of any Xbox. So, yeah. Right now, PS5 Pro is entering PC price tags with that $700 price tag because, before the argument was always, oh, for only $500, I could have a dedicated video game console. And it's like for $500, you could kind of build a mediocre gaming PC. For $700, you can definitely build a gaming PC, and it would beat the PS5 Pro. You can definitely beat a PS5 Pro with a $700 gaming PC. You would skimp on a couple areas, like you wouldn't get a gaming mouse and gaming, keyboard that, clicks and everything, but you could get a hell of a graphics card, a hell of a processor, and just, you'd be beating a PS5 Pro and you'd be beating the Xbox. So that's what's going to end up happening, I think, is you're going to see people switching off from consoles. The funniest thing about the PS5 Pro and the glitter edition of the Xbox Series X is that you don't need to get them. And what I mean by that is that a lot of these consoles are still pretty much running on previous console specifications, meaning that the PS5 Pro, while it is great and it can upscale games, most games still have playability for like the PS4. So if games are largely being hindered by previous generations, you're not really going to see much performance in the newest and greatest consoles, because unfortunately the Xbox Series X and the PS5 don't really have their own legs to stand on yet. There's still a lot of people that have a PS4 and the Xbox One, like the Xbox One X, not the Series X, but the Xbox One X. And there's still games that are being released that play on both of them. Like I remember not too long ago, Ray, I got it was WWE 2K24, one of the newest WWE wrestling games. And it had an edition where it came with all these extra features, and it was backwards compatible with the previous console. And what that immediately told me is that this game is being hindered to the previous console's limitations. It's going to push the previous console's limitations, not the Xbox Series X's limitations, and not the PS5's limitations. So, I mean, you can't really, for the PS5 Pro, it will largely not only be upscaling from the PS5, but from the PS4. So that's a huge way to go, and it can only go so far. So until, I would say, just my personal opinion, for the PS5 Pro and the Glitter Edition Xbox, you don't need them. If you don't already have a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, now is actually a great time to get one, because the only good thing that these console refreshes, the Glitter Xbox and the PS5 Pro, the only good thing these are doing is they're going to drive down the prices of the standard edition. So you'll be able to get a PS5, the discless one. It'll probably drop from $449 to probably a good $400, maybe more of a discount. We'll see around the holidays.
Right.
And same thing for the Xbox Series X. The glitter version and the white digital version is going to drive down the prices of the standard versions, and
Yeah, especially
will
when you
make
start
it more
hitting Black
accessible.
Friday deals. I think you'll see a big difference in price then.
Oh yeah, definitely. And speaking of which, one of the things I can guarantee you is going to happen, because of the Xbox Glitter Edition and the PS5 Pro being so stupidly expensive, and I'm imagining that the pre-orders are like tiny. They're It's not going to be the same as the pre-orders for the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, because the pre-orders are going to be so tiny. They're going to bundle some stuff. 100% around like Black Friday and definitely by Christmas, you are going to see bundles, and they're going to be like, "Oh, you can get the PS5 Pro, and instead of $700, it'll be 750, and it'll be $750, and it'll be the PS5 Pro with an extra controller and a game, whatever's like the hottest game around the time."
Right.
And instead of $700, it'll be 750, possibly 800. But they'll justify that by saying, "Oh, well, it's an extra game. You're getting a free game and you're getting an extra controller." And the thing that I've always had a problem with when they try to do those bundles is it's not really saving you any money. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's not saving you any money, because if you just take 10% off of all of those three things and add them back up together, it's cheaper. So like for the PS5 Pro, 10% off that $700 console would make it about 630, and then the controller is about $60. 7% off would make it about 53, 54. So you're up to what, instead of $700, 630, you're almost back up to $700, and then you
Right.
throw in the game again, about $50.
You're saving
So,
$10 off the total package. That's about what it boils down to.
well, if you were to buy it all separately at 10%, uh, you'd be saving about 10, maybe $20 if you just wait for all of them to be on sale for 10% off, which happens all the time.
Right.
So those bundles that they are always throwing out there to make it look really appetizing, you're not even getting 10% off all of that stuff. They'll try to repitch it and be like, "Oh, it's like getting a free controller or whatever," but you're really not. It's
Right.
it's just like maybe 6% off for a sale, so it's really not worth it even then.
Yeah. They
So,
put that out there in the holidays for those grandmothers and parents that don't really follow gaming, and this looks like a good deal. We'll get this. And they have
bro,
no
I wish
idea.
I had a grandma or grandpa that would buy me a console, a game, and a controller for $800. You
Yeah,
kidding me?
right.
The only saving grace to any of this is that there's financing. And Xbox kind of has the market on this, because if you buy directly from Xbox, this is a thing you can do. I don't know if you are aware of this, right?
Oh yeah.
But you can do financing where you get the Xbox and Xbox Ultimate, and it's like, I think like $40 a month or something like that,
Yeah.
or $30 a month, and
It's for a
it's
year or 2 years. I forget how long it is. Something like
yeah,
that.
and that entire time you would have the Xbox Ultimate, where it comes with every possible game and everything, and yeah, it's like a 1 or 2 year financing. Um, PlayStation doesn't exactly have that. I was checking that earlier. They do financing through Klarna, but it's just for the console. At least with Xbox, you also get the Ultimate
Yeah.
Game
That way
Pass subscription.
you're up and playing with a huge library of games right off the bat.
Exactly. So if that would be a route for PlayStation to consider, is to package their financing internally and include the PlayStation subscription for PS Plus Ultimate, or whatever their premium
Whatever
one's
they
called,
call it.
might be premium. That would be their best course of action. because otherwise the price is just way out there. And I don't know if you've heard a lot of the chatter about the pricing, but there have been people, in the finance sector that are like, oh, it's still, they're not even anywhere close to cell phone prices, and cell phone prices are easily over $1,000. Yes and no. It's like, yes, cell phone prices are over $1,000, but 90% of people do not pay all at once. 90% of people that get cell phones do financing
Mhm.
through, AT&T or Verizon. And on top
Right.
of that, uh, those same people will wait for sales where it's like, oh, if you switch to us, we'll get you the phone for like $5 a month, and they'll take down the cost of their service so that it's essentially like you're getting the phone for free. you
Yeah.
know
And just because there's a cell phone out there that is, $1,000 to $1,300 to get that top end cell phone, I can still buy a $200 cell phone that will work.
yeah
It's not like there isn't a lower option. Console market, you can buy an Xbox, you can buy a PlayStation, you can buy one lower version of that that's only a little bit cheaper, not a
yeah
lot cheaper. So it's not quite apples to oranges there, but definitely not apples to apples.
yeah but if if you get a $200 phone, that might be made out of wood or something. But I
It still
mean, if
flips.
you still have to do that T9 texting where it's like, oh, I need a C, so I got to hit
Tap, tap,
the
tap, tap,
number
tap.
2 3 times. We're showing our age here. uh,
Yep.
but yeah, as far as financing, that would be the best route if consoles are going to go this price point, which I hope they don't, because I've seen so many people saying that if this is the new normal for gaming consoles, that they're out. And honestly, when you think about the market for video game consoles, it's mainly kids. It's like kids, teenagers, some young adults in their 20s,
Then
old
old
dumbasses
farts
like
like
us.
us,
Yeah.
we're the rarity.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's entirely true. There's a lot more of us our age group because we grew up with consoles. I mean, I started out way back on like the Atari and the Intellivision and ColecoVision and those early consoles. You probably came in around the PS1
No, I was
or maybe
around
the
Super
Sega,
Nintendo.
Super Nintendo. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of adults, they're trading in, their Xboxes and their PlayStations, like college age kids, they're trading in their consoles for, party nights and stuff like that. And the older people, like the older adults, like in their 30s and stuff, they're trading in their consoles for like wedding rings and diapers. So as you get older, the gamers tend to drop off because they're doing other things in life.
Oh
But
yeah.
majority wise, like
Even now, you and
it's
I don't play games nearly like we used to.
uh,
There's just no
yeah.
time.
Yeah. But yeah, most of it is like most of your gamers nowadays are, people in their 20s, teenagers, and even younger. Like I've got nephews that are like 10, 11, 12, and they're playing religiously because they just got homework to do. They don't have 9 to 5 jobs and,
Right.
families to come home to and provide for, cook for, and clean for. So the thing is, a lot of these kids and teenagers and, college students, they're not going to have $700, $800
Mm-mm.
for a console. I think what's really going to happen is, I think it's going to be a copy of what happened with the PS3 when Xbox was selling a console for $300, and PlayStation decided to sell their console for $600, and they dropped their price so fast because no one bought a PS3. I mean, a few people did, but like in comparison to the Xbox 360, everyone was buying an X. For every PS3, there was at least two 360s being sold, and this is really the time that Xbox can shine because, and I know you and I have talked about this before, Ray, but Xbox can take the hit because
Oh yeah.
they've got so many more products,
Yeah. Microsoft has much deeper pockets.
Yeah. So they can sell a console like almost at cost and, really come back in the video gaming industry. Whereas Sony doesn't really have that luxury because
Yeah.
they can't, they need to make a profit because, if they don't, they only have what Sony Films, Sony Music, and some of their electronics. That's about the breadth of, their other ventures.
Yeah.
Um, Sony as a company as a whole is nowhere near Microsoft.
No.
So yeah, if Microsoft can make their next console, the the Xbox Series Y or whatever, if they can make it at cost and make it like $400, oof, you know, Sony wouldn't
Yeah,
stand a chance.
I don't see it being that cheap. But if they could at least come in the $500-$600 range, they might. They could still probably beat Sony.
Yeah, if they can make like a low powered version like the Series S at 400 and their Pro version, the comparison of the Series X for like 500 and stay in that price point, and Sony makes their PS6 at like $700-800, Sony won't stand a chance. All the console exclusives in the world, all the Gods of War and Spider-Man's, won't save them for being like $300 more than an Xbox. And Sony will have to figure something out real quick to cut corners to be competitive.
Yeah.
And I
And if
really
Xbox is
hope that
smart,
happens.
they'll even take a little bit of a loss on a console if they did that before with the 360.
Yeah,
They can take a little bit of a loss and still be way ahead and make it
yeah,
back up with games and software.
yeah. And when that happened with the Xbox 360 box, what was considered a loss leader. It's like, yeah, they were taking a loss, but they were leading the industry and they were making up for it with other things.
Yeah.
So they can definitely, if when this new console series comes out, not the mid-series refresh, but the next generation of consoles, if Xbox is willing to be a loss leader again, they will take the market. Everyone will be on Xboxes again. But honestly, I don't expect that to happen. I think what's going to end up happening is prices are going to go up. They will be in like the $600-700 range, and you'll see a lot of people playing remotely. Like people would rather spend $50, like I did, for a Amazon Fire Stick, and for PS5, people might play on computer. Aside from that, there's also been the talks of the next PSP portable console, like a PSP2, and there's definitely been a lot of talk about Xbox making a handheld console, and if that happens, that's going to be a lot less hardware, and the price will be a lot cheaper. So you might see like a $300 handheld console, and I think those will skyrocket. And the ironic part about that is if it's on the same level as the regular games, as the regular consoles, like let's say they have Series G, right? Or a Series P for portable, then that would mean that handheld console, even though it's not as powerful as the next generation of Xboxes, that would be the bare minimum benchmark for games. So you'd be able to play the same game on that handheld console that you could on your fancy $800 $700 console. And the same thing for PlayStation. If they decide to make a PS6 and a PSP2, the PS6 will be limited to what the PSP2 can do. So, you just basically have to have upscaling. You'd be paying all those extra $100 just for some upscaling. And
unless PlayStation goes dumb again, like they did with the original PlayStation Portable, the PSP and all that, where it used its own discs, its own, you bought a PSP version and you bought a PlayStation version. They weren't compatible with each other.
Yeah. And the other thing is now with digital gaming and like digital downloads, you don't really have to worry about the media format, like how PlayStation 3 was like Blu-ray discs and how PSP was like these little awkward, they were called UMDs, I think, Universal
It was
Media
like a
discs.
disc inside of a cartridge or something. It was weird.
Yeah. And they were UMDs for Universal Media, but they weren't universal at all. And yeah, you would put one of those in. So like there was the media difference, but now with everything majority being digital, you don't really have to worry about that. So it's really just hardware at this point. And like I said, if they make a PSP2 and a PS6, then the PS6 will be limited to do what the PSP2 can do. And if the PSP2 can do the same games that a PS6 can do, but for half the cost, everyone's going to buy the PSP2. And I have the feeling you're going to see that with PlayStation, and I have the feeling you're going to see that with Xbox. If they make a Series Z, which is top of the line, and then they make a Series G, which is the handheld version, the Series Z will be limited to what the handheld version can do. So it would be a waste of money to get the big console, especially if for the handheld consoles, if you can dock them like you can with the Nintendo Switch, if you can dock them and have them go onto the TV.
Oh yeah.
It wouldn't make sense to buy the bigger, more expensive consoles.
All right. Well, that's our episode today, and thanks for joining us. Check us out on, like Mike says, on all our social media. Like us, subscribe to us, leave comments. We love comments because we'll try to answer back to you when we can. And, it's just gives us good feedback for improving our show. But thanks for watching. We appreciate you being here.
All right. Peace.
Later.